you ready to branch out, to take a leap of faith, to love yourself and others fully? Then let go of whatever no longer serves you to take action now on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Erica will energize and excite you to power up your passionate dream that sets your soul on fire. With Erica's E3 approach, equipping, empowering, and enlightening yourself so you can be yourself for yourself. Get ready and get rooted to live a life without regrets, without what ifs, without should haves, and especially without empty feelings from a life unexplored. This hit show helps you build powerful and intentional roots to live it up, love it up, and let it go. Get fearlessly ready and powerfully rooted in your yes with your host, Erica Gifford Mills, and be fearless about your more and stand in your yes. Now on Get Rooted Radio.
Welcome, everyone. I am Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio, living it up, loving it up, letting it go, right here on Transformation Talk Revolution. A big shout out to my producer today, Sierra. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. We got a foot of snow over the weekend, so it's a little bit chilly here in Wisconsin, and I cannot believe that it's December 1st, the last month of 2025.
I
It's
can't
crazy.
believe it either. Oh my gosh.
I'm not sure where this year went, but I do want to remind listeners that if you weren't aware, you can now watch my show live or on demand at ttrnetwork.com. Make sure to subscribe for updates so you never miss a new episode. And don't forget that you can join in the discussion live. Just click on the player and hit the ask button to send your comments and questions during the show. And with that, let's kick off today's episode, which is titled From Inner Critic to Inner Champion. I think it's very appropriate that we start December and close out the new year, or close out the year with this, because I think it's so important. And I can't wait to have this discussion, because most professionals, they don't struggle with ideas. They struggle with that inner critic when it's time to speak. And we want to be able to retrain that voice into one of an inner champion. And during today's episode, my guest, Leslie Fiorenzo, and I will discuss how to create a daily confidence ritual to silence the critic and bring forth that champion. And listeners, you will leave with simple, repeatable practices to calm your nerves, speak with authority, and finally let go of what no longer serves you, right within the spirit of living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. But first, a little bit about my guest. Leslie Fiorenzo founded Business Speaking Solutions to help professionals refine their messaging, build confidence, and captivate their audience. She believes that effective communication is a cornerstone of successful leadership and works alongside her clients to equip them with skills needed to excel in boardrooms, networking events, and high-stake presentations. She is passionate about helping others find their voice and make their mark. She is a seasoned business presentation coach with over 30 years of experience in a variety of corporate settings. As an ever-curious student of people and business, she has achieved numerous certifications and holds a master's degree in human resource development. Leslie has taught human resources, business, and marketing courses as an adjunct faculty member and independent consultant. Her unique perspectives and approach are based on her professional career using the skills she now teaches. She is the author of 21 Lessons to Master the Difficult Conversation, Find Your Voice, Conquer Your Fear, and Share Your Story with Confidence, and 5 Steps to Speaking Success, all available on Amazon. Thank you so much, Leslie, for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Erica. It's great.
Well, I'm ready for this discussion. So the first segment, we're going to talk about getting rooted, of course, a term I love. But what does that mean to you? And what did confidence used to mean to you? And then what does it mean now? Maybe give our listeners a little background on how this all came about.
Sure. Well, I think early in my career and you might be familiar with this saying that was always like, fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And what I've come to realize is we don't want to do that. We really want to be ourselves. And I know that word authenticity and authentic self gets tossed around a lot, but you really need to be true to who you are
Yes.
and be comfortable in your own skin, which a lot of times is challenging for people to do. And that's why I say we've got to get rid of that critical voice and replace it with the voice of a champion, because that voice is going to be there regardless. We just want to retrain it.
Yeah, and I think that's important because we all at some point in time or another have that self-doubt, that limiting
Mm.
belief, that imposter syndrome. And it's we have to remember we can't always believe everything we tell ourselves.
Oh,
And
yes.
so that confidence, right?
Yeah.
What did it used to mean to you when
Yeah.
when you first started out and building your business, getting up on stages, especially in front of being the expert, right?
Yeah.
You're up in front of classes teaching this. How did that confidence, that term, change over the years?
So it really changed when I came to realize that I did have expertise and that I knew what I was talking about, that when people began to follow my work, implement what I was suggesting, and then come back to me and say, "Hey, this really worked. It was great." And, as I was coaching clients and working with other people. So that's always fun when you get that kind of feedback. And then again, it's the self-talk, because at first the inner critic will say, are you really sure about that? Is that true? And I love what you just said. We don't have to believe every thought that comes our way. And that's
Yes.
the challenge, is to say, I think that's not helpful. I think that's inaccurate. I need to be saying something different to myself. I need to be telling myself a different story. And so by telling yourself the story that, yeah, I can do this, I've got this, and I have a story to share, an important story to share. That's the difference. And that's what I've found with my clients.
Well, and how do we know? Maybe start with yourself. How did
Mhm.
you know and realize the inner critic was kind of running the show? And how do we, as everybody else, like how do we realize that? Because sometimes I
Mhm.
think we don't even know that
Yeah.
it's happening.
Well, ask yourself, is this, I mean, if I listened to this or if I took this advice, would it be advice that I'd give my very best friend?
Mhm.
Would it be advice that's helpful, that's going to get me in the direction of my dreams, or is it going to hold me back? Is it the voice of somebody who's saying, "Yes, you can do this, move forward," cheering you on? I mean, if we think of people who run races, it doesn't matter if you're swimming or running or walking or what, but you're in a race, or even race cars for that example. There's crowds cheering you on and supporting you, and that's what we want to do for ourselves, is create that voice that, yes. Am I gonna have setbacks? Yes. Is everything always gonna go the way I want it or visualize it or hope it does? No. But I have that voice that says, "You know what? Tomorrow's a new day. I can learn from this opportunity. I can move forward. I can figure it out. And I know that what I'm doing is important and helping me move forward." So having those
Yeah.
conversations with yourself.
And I think that is very important. It's that positive psychology. And I know some people always say, "Hey, why you can't always be positive all the time." And I get it, right? We do want to be realistic.
Mhm.
We do want to acknowledge that there are going to be bumps in the road, right? Nothing is ever perfect. And if you always try to strive for that perfection or wait till you're ready, right? You're never going to get any place. And
Right.
so we have to, yes, acknowledge those things, but don't be doomsday, right? Don't be, well, it's never going to go right. So I shouldn't just do it, or I'm not good enough for this. When you have those conversations in your head, those thoughts become things. And when we turn it around and have that mindset reset, I think it helps us. And so think about that, and I like that analogy because I've said it before. Would you speak to your daughter, your
Mm.
niece, your friends, young ladies coming up, your best friend? Would you talk to them that way? And if you wouldn't, why are you doing it to yourself? And I think
Exactly.
that's important. So one other thing is, what myths about public speaking do we need to let go of? Because as we are getting over that inner critic, and we're stepping into that stage, what are those myths that we just need to let go?
Well, they always say, think about your audience in their underwear or think of them in the nude to make it like, no, don't think of them that way. Think that your audience wants you to do your very best. No one shows up at an event and says, gee, I hope today's speaker's boring. No, they say, gee, I hope I learned something. I hope this is a good use of my time. And so they have your back. They want the best for you and they are cheering you on. So when I come from the approach that, you know what, my audience wants me to succeed. So am I going to have some hiccups? Absolutely. Erica, if you go to my YouTube channel, I can promise you every video I've created has a little teeny slip up.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's natural. Just don't dwell on that, right?
exactly,
And it's
exactly.
I
And
do it
so,
here. I get tongue tied and or I'm so focused on I'm not going to say this wrong. I'm not going to say this wrong. I focus on it so much and I say it wrong. So as we gotta let it go. Like just
yeah.
move
So
forward. Yeah.
you talked earlier about perfection and yes, letting it go, focusing on excellence. So the question is, did I do my very best given the circumstances at the time? And generally speaking, the answer is going to be yes. I did my very best that I could do. Maybe I could have been better, but next time I will. So I learn from that. The question that I often encourage my clients to ask is, if not who, or if not who, the answer is you, and if not now, when, right? We want to do it now, not waiting for that perfect moment in time, because that perfect moment in time is never, ever going to come.
Exactly. Well, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about priming your presence. But before we
Awesome.
go, Leslie, tell folks how they can connect with you.
So they can visit my website at lesliefiorenzo.com and check me out there.
Perfect. You are listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any portion of today's episode, you can catch it on getrootedradio.com. Don't forget to subscribe online to receive the latest news, events, specials, and words of encouragement. Go to getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Leslie Fiorenzo. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
My pleasure, Erica.
So during our first segment, we discussed getting rooted. And during this segment, we're going to talk about priming your presence. So what does that mean, prime your presence?
Well, what I've had a lot of people say to me is, I'm fine when I book the date. I've been asked to do this presentation, or I know I've got a sub for my boss at this meeting, and it's a 3 weeks out. But the closer it gets, the more anxiety builds up in me. And the day before, I've actually had people say a couple weeks before, but a lot of times it's a day or two before. So I came up with this idea of priming your presence because it's about the 5 to 10 minutes before you step in front of the group, whether it's on a Zoom call or an in-person meeting or you're on stage at a presentation. Having a routine or a ritual. I happen to like the word ritual because to me it's about what I do repeatedly, but you can call it whatever you want, a system. I don't care. But it's something you do consistently to help get you focused in the moment. And it consists of a breathing technique, and there are, I'm sure, hundreds, maybe I'll
Yeah.
say dozens, but there's a lot of breathing techniques that you can use. One of my favorites is the 4 by 4 by 4. So boxed breathing, they call it too. So inhaling for 4 counts, holding that inhale, exhaling out of your mouth for 4 counts, like a big sigh, and holding that exhale. And then repeating that process maybe 6 or 8 times. It depends on maybe how much time you have before you step out in front of the group. But if you have a good 5 minutes, you could do a minute's worth of breathing to really get yourself centered and focused. And then a power phrase. I've got this. My audience wants me to succeed. I am qualified. this is going to be amazing. A powerful statement that you can make. Because all too often, what do we say? That critic comes in, oh, well, I'm gonna mess up that word, or this isn't gonna go well, or
Yeah.
we get this litany. So no, I'm gonna make myself say the good things I want to have happen. I'm gonna speak them into the universe, into the world, whatever you want to say about that, but I'm gonna speak them out loud. And if I'm not in a place where I can say them out loud, I'm going to say them in my head.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to stand tall in some kind of power pose. And these are all simultaneous, really.
Yep.
Maybe it's like Wonder Woman with your hands on your hips and your shoulder. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Or
love
maybe
Wonder
it's,
Woman, so
yeah, I
I
do
love
too.
that you said that.
I've had other people like do the Heisman Trophy look,
Oh,
whatever,
yep.
whatever works for you. But it's a stance of power, and the key to me, whether you're seated or standing, is both feet flat on the floor and your head's up and your chest is lifted and you're smiling, you're ready. It's going to be amazing because when we feel powerful, we're more inclined to be outstretched. If you look at pictures of former President Obama when he was in office, he was outstretched and like he was sitting back and he was larger than life. And when we get stressed or we get anxious or we get frustrated, we have a tendency to kind of lean in, like hunch
Mhm.
over. No, you want to expand. And especially if you want to project, you've got to expand. So you can bring your voice up from your diaphragm and out and project that voice because you don't want to be like this. You want people to be able to hear you. So those are the three things I tell people to put in a presence routine that they will use again and again and again. And might you have to change it up if you can't stand up, you've got to be seated, whatever, but find a ritual that is powerful and meaningful to you so you can be present in that moment.
I love that. And especially because you don't need a lot of time. I mean, you said you like 5 minutes,
Yeah.
your 5 minute prime your presence and and I think that's important because sometimes we get so worked up or trying to remember what we're going to say or what we're going to do
Mhm.
that unknowingly you start breathing faster. And then
Yes.
for me, if I start breathing faster, then I'm going to start talking faster.
Yes.
Because I mean, I went to speech class all up and through high school. I talked too fast, which I still do. I stutter, and when I get nervous or overtired, I still stutter.
Mhm.
And I had problems with like R's and L's and W's,
Mhm.
and so there's certain words that, they will trip me up.
Yeah.
But if I think about that, then I'm focused on it. And if I just stop, like clear that, you
Mhm.
probably are going to trip up and it's okay.
Yeah.
So that's the next question I want to ask. So we've got our pre-presentation ritual or
Uh-huh.
pre-presentation, process, well, however you want to call it.
Exactly.
But what sometimes people say, my mind goes blank. I get up there or I get to a part
Mhm.
and maybe it's an emotional part. Maybe it's something that you've been practicing a lot and this is where you thought you might get tripped up. What happens if your mind goes blank? What would be a technique that our listeners could use that, oh my gosh, how do I recover?
Yeah.
My mind went blank. What do I do now?
Yeah. So acknowledge it and pivot and then don't spend a lot of time there. So mistakes happen. I call it maps. Mistakes happen. Things are going to go awry. We're going to forget a word. Your PowerPoint's going to fail. Technology's not going to work. Something's going to happen. So, okay, mistake. And if I forget where I'm at or if I lose my train of thought, I've often said, "Oh, wait a minute. My train of thought just derailed." And then I take a breath and I come back. And if it doesn't come back, I just start talking about something else, or I start talking and I'll just say, okay, 1 second. Oh, here it comes. Or no, I've lost it. Let me continue with my next point. And okay, your audience is going to forgive you that. You don't want to belabor it. And so pivot to your next point and then just know that you'll be fine. It's not the end of the world, and avoid beating yourself up about it later on.
Yeah.
Because, okay, like you mentioned, there's words that trip us up. I have a tendency, especially if I'm excited or nervous, I want to talk too fast and I have so much I want to share and I'll turbo, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Let's see. Where was I going with that point? Oh,
Yep.
yeah. And if we just can take a pause and take a breath, then it'll come back to us. And if it doesn't, you're just going to move on to your next thing.
And I like that. Maps. You're going to you have the mistake. You're
Mhm.
going to acknowledge the mistake
Yeah,
to yourself, right? You're going to acknowledge, because most times people don't know if you made a mistake. People don't know
exactly.
if you left a whole 3 parts of your presentation out. They don't know your presentation.
Exactly.
Acknowledge it to yourself, that pause and pivot,
Uh-huh.
and then shift back to your purpose, right? To your
Yeah,
presentation.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we shift
I
back.
love that because I know I can tend to either over prepare, and I do better when I don't, but
Mhm.
because I want to make sure I'm prepared, I don't want to go into something being, on the fly willy-nilly.
Yes.
But I, it seems like when I try to memorize something, the more I try to memorize it, the more I get nervous, the more I get irritated with myself. If I'm like, oh, I had a one really good, I had a really good line and I never said it because I forgot it.
Yeah.
What would you say to those over preparers or overthinkers who still feel like they're on shaky ground?
Well, I believe this idea came from a class I took of Dale Carnegie. What's his
Yes.
standard? He's got a standard course, or there
Yes.
is a standard. Anyway, think about setting up your points in something you'll remember. So maybe it's your living room. And when you walk around your living room, you've got a couch, and that's your opening. And what's your opening point? And then next to your couch, you've got a chair, or maybe a table, or whatever it is. Or maybe it's a walk around your block. So you've got your house, you've got your neighbor's house, but those points line up in your head. So I've got my opening. What am I going to say to get going? And then I'm going to tell my story. And then in the story, I'm going to wind it up, whatever it is you're doing. So in your head, you kind of visualize, oh yeah, if I'm at my neighbor's house, that means I've got to be talking about this. And when I cross at the crosswalk, I'm going to be talking about this. So in my head, I've got this map laid out or this visualization, so I can always remember where I'm at. And I might need to, if I lose my place, I can come back and think, oh, what was I going to say? And you are exactly right, Erica. No one knows what you're going to say. And so if you say it a little different, or if you don't make the point exactly, or you reword it, nobody cares.
Yeah. Yep. And I like that because you might know, and yeah, it might be, oh, I really wanted to nail that one area. Um, but don't worry about that. They don't know. As long as you have your main points, and I like it how we that mapping, because then if you have this mapped out, when you get on the stage, you look at it ahead of time. Okay, this is my couch, this is this, and I know where I need to be for
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
And I think that's important because that helps to trigger the memory.
Yeah.
And also just focus at one part at a time. um, I know where when I was helping some new speakers, they were like, well, but I want to nail the whole thing. Don't worry about nailing the whole thing. I mean, I don't know that I've ever nailed every single speaking engagement I've had. I've always had one little hiccup or one thing I wanted to make sure I got across, and maybe I didn't nail that part, but
Yeah.
I had a clear call to action and I had a great closer. Maybe I stumbled a little bit in the opener, and
Mm.
that's okay. I
Yeah.
think we got to celebrate along the way.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And I think people want to hear from humans.
Yes. Yeah,
That makes us
absolutely.
human.
Yep. Well, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about speaking to connect, not to perform. But before we go, you have something for our listeners, the Fearless
Oh,
Speaker
yes.
Blueprint.
Yes, my Fearless Speaker Blueprint. They can find that on my website. I think the tab says start here, and they can download that free 5-point guide.
Perfect. That's a Fearless Speaker Blueprint. You want to go to the Leslie Fiorenzo.com,
Yes.
and you can get that Fearless speaker blueprint. Thank you so much, Leslie.
Thank
I'm
you.
Erica Gifford. I'm Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Don't forget to visit getrootedradio.com to listen to the replay of this episode, sign up for helpful tips, and learn about upcoming events. That's getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Leslie Fiorenzo. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
My pleasure, Erica. Thanks for having me.
Well, so during the last few segments, we've discussed getting rooted and priming your presence. And during this segment, we're going to discuss speaking to connect, not to perform. So what do we mean by that?
Well, there's a tendency, I think, especially as we think about this idea of I've got to be perfect, I've somehow got to put on this performance. And what I really think your audience wants you to do is connect. And I love what Brene Brown says about clarity, that kind is clear and unkind is, or unclear is unkind. I think that's because when I'm wanting to perform, sometimes it's not clear. So the question I encourage people to ask is, what would be the one idea or the one thought or one action I would want my audience to take as a result of my being there? And maybe that's if you're leading a team meeting or a Zoom call with a group of people, what's the one thing? And then I build from there, because the challenge that many of us have is we have so much we want to say. And there is so much information out in the world. How do I distill all that down into one or two or three really key points? So what's the one takeaway? And then share from there and share what you feel is the right thing to do or the right information to give or the information you want to give, not someone else's idea. Not thinking about having it scripted and I've got to say this exactly right, or what if I don't emphasize this point enough? What is I build around your ideas. Now I'm all for practicing and having some key points, and some people do better memorizing than others. I'm not going to argue with either way. What works for you, and you've sometimes that the only way you find that out is by trial and error.
Yes.
But when I say being connected, think about your audience as they're real human beings. And what are you going to do to connect with them? And how will you make this real for them?
And that's important, because that connection, if I'm an audience member, I enjoy a presentation, a speech, a whatever it is, right? Whatever you're attending, whether it's a seminar, just a motivational speaker.
Yeah.
If I feel connected to the person, I enjoy it. I listen. You can see they're leaning in. They're really taking, which is one reason I love when you can see the audience, because then as a speaker, I know, am I engaging them? Are they really hearing me? And if they're not, do I need to be able to pivot? And I like that, because sometimes if it's a very technical presentation, you might have those skeptics in the audience. So I think you use a technique called clear, right? That messaging frame. So tell listeners, what is that? And is this a good way to craft your presentation, your story that sticks? Because speaking is nothing more than storytelling.
Right, it is. And that's what I tell people is facts tell, but stories sell. So anytime I have some data that I'm wanting to communicate and build my presentation around, what's the story that can relate to that? And I heard this really great example on a TED Talk not too long ago, but because the gentleman was helping someone through a difficult, he was upset that his proposal rather, wasn't accepted. And part of the reason was he got into so deep into the technical terms and the type of construction material that was going to be used. And the whole point of his message was we need to build this bridge across this busy intersection so students have a safe way to get to school, because they're not walking the 2.5 blocks down the street to cross at the crosswalk. They're cutting through this high traffic area. Anyway, he said, you never said it's a safety concern.
Right.
It got into a discussion about the type of materials that it just derailed from there. So what do I really want? What do I really need to happen? And how can I build my case around that? And what story can I share? And stories don't have to be long.
Yeah.
The example I often use is the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Now that's a sentence that when I learned to keyboard and it was on a typewriter,
Yep.
but that sentence had every letter in the English alphabet. So you could find them all on the keyboard. But it's still, my point in saying that is it's a story, because I hope it created a visual in your head about a fox jumping over a dog, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
what we want to create the visuals in somebody's head with the words we're using. And then there might be emotion behind those words. So I have to think about that. Some words are more emotional than others, but having those emotionals, what I can't always be sure of my audience's reaction, but I can probably pretty good guess, and especially if I know where my audience is coming from, if I can do a little bit of investigating, finding out who they are, what's going to resonate with them. So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah. And you say the clear messaging, that clarity, which is
Yes,
that like that one sentence, and then lead, name the goal, right?
yes.
Engage. Are you engaging the audience? Is there a question? Is there a poll? Is there participation, right?
Yeah.
And then
Even if
action.
it's rhetorical questions. I love rhetorical
Exactly.
questions, right? We
Yeah.
don't expect an answer, but have you ever, because when I hear a question, my mind automatically thinks about, "Ooh, I've got to have an answer." So is this true for you? Is another way to frame that. Or is this been, I don't know about you, but it's been my experience that this, that kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah. And then, the action, what now? And then the R, reflect, what this changes. So in your example from the gentleman from the TED Talk,
Yeah.
he didn't have that clear message.
Yeah.
He got too technical and didn't say, this is the problem, here's a proposed solution, and this is why it's important, right? So we didn't
Yeah.
have that.
Yeah.
How about crafting a story? What do you have a story spine that you use to really hook an audience?
Well, so think about that opening. What's going to be of interest? What can I say that would make it interesting? And that's where AI can be your friend, because you can put in your sentences and say, help me create a really interesting hook. What's a great way that I could open with this? And I know you're grateful for being there, but please don't open with, thanks so much for having me. Please don't open with, gosh, the weather we're having here is awful. This is such a beautiful city. Talk about something related to your topic that's engaging, that's going to grab people's attention. We have a less attention span. I don't know how they found this research, but they say now than a goldfish. Used to be 15 seconds. Now it's like 7 or less. But there's so much information coming at us. So we have to immediately engage with people and share from a perspective that drives curiosity. And maybe it's something a little controversial. It's okay to be a little controversial, but engaging with people and getting their ears to perk up. Because again, no one shows up at an event and says, gee, I hope this speaker today is boring, I could use a nap. No, they say, hey, I want to know what this person has to say. I hope it's interesting. I hope it's engaging. I hope it's a good use of my time.
Yeah. And that's important, because if we don't capture their attention right off the bat, it will be harder to get it as it goes on.
Yes.
And I think I love the analogy that, we have attention spans like goldfish. And I think it's because of we're an instant gratification society now. Text messages, we can get information like this. Used to have to go to the library to look something up. Now I can just pick up my phone and go dee, and I
Uh-huh.
have it. Right. And so we're
Exactly.
used to that, getting that information right away. So if we can't charm them right away, it's going to be hard to get back. And I love that, because I think openings for me are always hard, because I haven't learned, I don't know the audience. If I haven't been part of the audience, or if I'm the first speaker, you don't know the audience yet.
Yes.
And so you need to, examine that, look at that, get that information before you even start preparing your presentation, because you want to know who's the audience. Because
Yeah.
if you don't, you're speaking to them. And if you don't know your audience and you can't read the room,
Mhm.
so you need to do a little bit of that research when you're speaking with the individual who maybe signed you up for it, or you're going in as, who am I talking to?
Mhm.
Are they leaders? Are they union representatives? Are they parents? What
Yeah.
is it I'm talking about that I'm trying to get them to listen to? And how is that going to relate to them? So it's not like you're going to go in and say, talk about financial numbers if none of these people are the finance team, right? You
Right.
have to know what your audience is. So I think
Yeah.
that's a great reminder.
Mhm.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to finish out the show with letting it go to let it grow. This is Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any of the information during the last segments, go to getrootedradio.com to listen to the replay. Don't forget to subscribe, sign up for tips and special events, and pricing for upcoming coaching sessions at getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Leslie Fiorenzo. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks.
Tell folks how they can connect with you and get that Fearless Speaker Blueprint.
So if they go to my website, which is lesliefiorenzo.com, there should be a tab that says getting started or start here. I'm not looking at it right now, so I can't remember exactly, but they can click that tab and then fill in their name and email. It'll come right to their email inbox, and they can download it.
Wonderful. So during the last segments, we've discussed getting rooted, priming your presence, and speaking to connect, not to perform. During this last segment, we're going to discuss letting it go to let it grow. So what can listeners do this week, right, just starting to put something into practice so that we can let it go to let it grow?
Well, I wanted to comment on, you mentioned earlier about we talked about connecting with our
Yes.
audience and stories we tell ourselves and that kind of thing. When we are in front of a live audience today, and sometimes even when we're on a Zoom call, the temptation with virtual, doesn't matter what platform, is I think, ooh, I can sneak over here and do something else. Or I'm in the audience and I've got my mobile device up and I'm looking at something and I'm going to quick answer a text or quick do something else. And so this, as a speaker, you're thinking, oh, they're not paying attention to me, or they're not interested in what I'm saying. No, please avoid telling yourself the story. The temptation is great. Now, I believe we can switch task. We can't multitask. We can go from one thing to another really quickly. We just miss most of what either one is happening. So I want to say avoid the temptation to do two things at once, because we cannot do two cognitive things at once. But as a speaker, and you see somebody in your audience on their phone, or you see somebody on their computer, let it go.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, because you can't control their actions. You can only control your delivery and what you're sharing, your information. It's whether or not they take it is on them, not you. So if they're distracted, if they're trying to do multiple things, oh well, It is what it is. And in this day and age, in this world we live in, unfortunately, I think it's only going to get worse. It's
Oh
just
yeah,
there's so much out there.
And you never know, it could be an emergency, or how many times have you personally done that, like because you think you can sneak away.
Uh-huh.
Don't let that distract you from
Exactly.
continuing to move forward. And I think that's really 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 important, because people can get discouraged by that.
Oh yeah.
And I'd say, as a speaker, audience members, let's be cognizant of that, and try to be a good audience member,
Yeah.
and put the stuff away, put it down, make sure your phones are silenced, and be open to learning, because I think sometimes people do go in and saying, I'm not going to learn anything else. And
Mhm.
so, okay, well, if you think you're not going to learn anything else, of course you're not going to learn anything else, because you have blocked that off.
Right.
So let's not take it personally as a speaker, but also let's be a good act and participate in active listening when you
Yeah.
are an audience member. Yeah. So, what can listeners do? You have kind of like have a 7-day challenge. What can we do to build up our confidence, our
Mm.
presence, and get rooted so that we can grow?
So the first question I'd say to ask yourself is what went really well? Because again, we often ask the opposite. We're like, what could I do better? How could I make this? So what went really well? What can I celebrate that I did? And how can I move forward? And then what did I learn?
Yeah.
Maybe something didn't go quite right. Maybe there was a technology blip, or I several months ago, I walked into an auditorium and my slide deck was up on the screen. And the young man in the projector room, he's actually, it wasn't him, it was the woman who was hosting me. She said, by the way, do you know you have a misspelled word on your opening slide? I never saw it. Luckily, there was time to change it. But
Yep.
again, I could spend a lot of time beating myself up about that. Okay, we changed it in time. It's not a big deal. And even if the audience had seen it, all right. It wasn't an offensive word. It didn't people could obviously see it was a mistake, right?
Yeah.
Um, so those kinds of things, and learn to laugh at yourself. I think the whole point in doing anything is to see how I can maximize the fun. I mean, if we're not having fun, what's the point? I just really think that we're here to enjoy life, and life's a gift and all those kinds of, I could go on and on about that, but how can I make it fun? How can I
Right.
enjoy it? And then move forward. So I learned from this. What did I learn? What might I implement next time? How can I grow?
Mm.
Where are the opportunities? As opposed to being critical and saying, oh, I'm going to give up because it's not working.
Yeah. Well, and remember, we're human. We all make mistakes.
Yeah.
And to think that the people in the audience have never made a mistake, I mean, don't beat yourself up about that. Or,
Right.
like you said, laugh it off. And I always say, so you are paying attention to my PowerPoint. I did that to see who was going to be reading this, right?
Yes.
Just, make a little joke about it. And
Yes.
and I think that it's give yourself grace, the grace
Yes.
and space. We just need to do that. So how do we measure, about that? Because we all want to be better next time, learn
Mhm.
from my mistakes,
Mhm.
and see what we can do to improve. But how do we measure our progress without obsessing over it?
Mm. Well, you might keep some kind of record of, this today I had this presentation, or I led this meeting, or again, what went well? What did I learn that I can implement next time? And so then when the next time comes, the question is, did I do what I said I was going to do?
Right.
And if I didn't, what got in my way? And what did I learn from that? So it's always the learning questions, using everything as an opportunity to move yourself forward in a way that's constructive as opposed to a way that's destructive.
I like that. Being constructive, right?
Yeah.
Doing something that's better, and don't beat yourself up. Don't be destructive on it. It's
Yeah.
if we I always say mistakes are learning opportunities,
Yes.
and we can use those to build those bridges to become better and better.
Yeah.
So how about, you have so much knowledge and have done a lot of things. How can people work with you more in building their speaking opportunities, like themselves, right? To improve on that.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the process, Erica, of launching a community that people can join to practice to that end. So they can actually book a call with me through my website if they wanted to learn more. At this point, the sales page isn't quite ready to go, but they could send me a note and book a call, and I can share that with them. I love Toastmasters, and I recommend people take advantage of that as a learning opportunity. This is going to be a little different because it's going to be focused more specifically on where you're personally at. I love Toastmasters, but they're very scripted, and you follow the process, right? And this is my community will be more, I've got to work on this information that I've got to share with my team. I want to create a story. I'm not sure how to do that. Or they can come and ask questions in a group setting and not only get feedback from me, but others in the group. So that's
Cool.
a preview of coming attractions.
I love that. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Leslie.
Thank you for having me, Erica. It's been so fun.
Good. And I want to thank you all for tuning in to Get Rooted Radio. If you missed any part of today's episode or want to listen again, go to getrootedradio.com for the podcast. And don't forget to tune in the first and third Monday of each month at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on Transformation Talk Revolution. As we close out today's episode, I want to remind you that you are worthy. If you are hurting or need help, please know the world needs you and is a better place with you in it. Don't let the hard days win. Reach out for assistance. You can call, text, or chat the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, or text HOME, HOME, to 741-741 to reach a trained crisis counselor through Crisis Text Line. Both are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and are free. Thank you for tuning in. Have an amazing day. Know that you are loved, and I'm looking forward to the next time on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Visit getrootedradio.com if you've missed any part of this hit show, and tune in on transformationtalkradio.com to live fearlessly in your more and powerfully rooted in your unlimited yes. For more information and to work with Erica directly, visit getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com, and get ready to live it up, love it up, and let it go.